Thanks for standing by, and welcome to the ReNerve Investor Webinar and Q&A following the company's recent Appendix 4C and quarterly update. All participants are in a listen-only mode. There will be a presentation lasting for approximately 20 to 25 minutes, followed by Q&A. If you have a question that you'd like to submit, please feel free to type it in using the Q&A function within Zoom. Please note this session is being recorded. On behalf of ReNerve today, we have the CEO, Dr. Julian Chick. I'll hand it over to Julian. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Matt. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody's logged in and can hear me well. Thank you for joining us today. This is just an overview of the last quarter, an update on the company. So next slide, if I could. And this is just a notice and disclaimer. I will be making some comments, forward-looking statements throughout the presentation, just so please refer to that. Next slide, thanks. So just an executive summary for those that have heard me speak before. We've had this slide, continue to just put this up as a précis of the company, but we're here to develop a portfolio of products around peripheral nerve repair and regenerative products. So focusing on those surgical procedures that are associated with nerve repair, and that's the clear focus of the business. However, I'll talk more about Berkeley scenario partnership through this presentation, but wherever we can, we will look to maximize revenue per procedure and access to hospitals by expanding into products that are complementary to what we're doing in terms of the nerve program. We're expanding our product portfolio. The second half of this year is going to be very exciting. You'll hear me say that multiple times in this call, and I'll walk through the drivers a bit later, but we will have 4 products on the market, 4 product ranges, I should say, on the market by the end of the year. We have all the distribution and sales infrastructure, logistics warehouse in place. I'll talk a little bit about where we're up to, an update on our distribution network, because we've gone forward with that in the quarter as well. And during the quarter, we also made a partnership in India, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well in terms of our global approach and commercialization. So the focus is predominantly in the United States, but since listing, we've also expanded into Asia and the Middle East and the Americas. And again, as always, we're trying to build a repository of data around our programs and our products. These will help our sales team build the business. Next slide, thank you. So this is just to give a snapshot. I'm yet to see life sciences companies talk about the markets they target. Everybody is working in multi-billion-dollar markets, but these are some actual numbers taken from independent reports. The top slide, the top graph there talks about the global repair market. It's a significant market. It's why we were formed. It's growing as more surgeons become aware of the applications in surgery and the benefits of repairing nerves, but repairing nerves well. And that's a key around what we do. All the products we want to bring in and sell have a purpose and an outcome for patients and surgeons alike. So the market is growing. It's significant. And so we just need to build out and tap all of that. The bottom slide is relevant to the announcement we made back in June around our partnership with Berkeley products. These are the dermal and amniotic tissue products, significant markets and significant market opportunities. Again, this just allows us to generate more revenue from procedures themselves, as well as through our distributors and hospital approval. So they're complementary in that sense. Next slide, thank you. So this is the core of the business. We have 4 products that we talk about. The nerve cuff is on the market. For those that have heard me speak before, I've gone on a fair bit about that. I'm not going to talk about data today. This is really just a quarterly update, but that product is in market and really leading the way in terms of building our brand and presence. The nerve conduit is progressing well, and we anticipate that we will see the first of those products on market by the end of the year. So we've talked about getting 4th quarter filing in 2025 calendar year, but we're a little ahead of schedule of that. So you can look forward to some announcement coming in the near term in regards to that progress. We'll develop a number of these products and some variations of that over the next 12 months, but the first of those products, conduit products, should come to market before year end. Our guide matrix, nerve guide matrix, we talk about this as being the the purpose for being the rainmaker for the company. That's progressing well with our manufacturing partner Evergen, and we're looking to go in the second half of this year into the stage 3 of our commercialization development process ahead of filing next year, early the following year. We're looking for a target filing towards the end of 2026. However, that doesn't preclude us from using it in the clinic ahead of that time. And then, so all of those, both the nerve conduit and nerve guide matrix, I'll remind everybody that these have all the development has been done, all the R&D. These are now in development phase where we're looking to make commercial GMP level manufacturing with consistency so that they suit out on a pharmaceutical, FDA approached type of manufacturing such that we can lodge for market approval. And our bionic nerve, we don't talk a lot about it, but that program is progressing well. It's actually evolving, and we have a number of other related R&D projects going on within there. But we'll talk about those more once we get our complement to our products into the market. So we'll then split between commercialized products and R&D as we move forward. But there's some research going on. Next slide. So the company highlights for the quarter. In terms of sales and the sales year on year are up 53%, so they continue to grow. We have closing cash of 4.75 million post the IPO, so that still gives us a good amount of capital. And also remind people that we do have an R&D tax rebate that will be, we're targeting at over $500,000 into that. That'll boost that closing cash balance most likely in the second half of this year. Our revenue rose quarter on quarter by 25%. So we are seeing growth quarter on quarter and year on year, and all our costs are in line with forecasts. So in terms of the financials and sales, but the question is really around how do we accelerate that growth? And we believe that one of those ways is to bring more products to market that are targeted and sold through exactly the same processes that we have. And that brings me to the key highlights or activities for the quarter. In June, as I said before, we announced a partnership with Berkeley Biologics for 2 main product ranges. These products are already approved, and I'll repeat myself a few times here, but they complement the existing targeted market. And they're big, significant target markets, and this will help us build revenue so that we're not reliant on bringing out nerve graft to be the one and all business. This allows us to have a rounded product portfolio towards the end of this year going into 2026 that allows us to really ramp up that revenue stream. We entered a partnership during the period in India with NetCentrics. This is a really important nerve market. Financially, the market doesn't look enormous from a sort of pure sales perspective, but it is one of the biggest nerve repair markets in the world. For example, the Ganga Hospital in southern India does about 3,000 brachial plexus nerve procedures a year. And to put that in perspective, NYU Medical does around about 100. And also a lot of people from around the world, particularly US surgeons, will go and spend some time in India in hospitals like the Ganga Hospital to see greater level of cases simply because of the sheer number. And we have a major conference there scheduled for September, and we will look to and we're looking for approval in there towards the end of this year. And as I said before, we have a partner there so we can move straight into that market. And part of the reason for that conference is to start building up exposure. And then also during the quarter, we had our approval in Bahrain through our partner there. And we've shipped our first product for use in the Middle East. So things are progressing in the Middle East. Next slide, thanks. And just to give everybody an update on that, I've put some markers here of where the states. You can see we now have 21 distributors across the United States. We had some distributors in Oregon and Washington. We've removed some distributors simply because of underperformance. And this has been put on particularly since Eric has joined, and we've also put on Mark Nixon in June to build up our US presence. And so Mark and Eric will be working with these guys to look for both ongoing sales, but as well as building out approvals and so on and so forth Our focus area remains across a number of surgical subspecialties: hand and upper extremity, breast, lower extremity, pediatric podiatric medicine or foot, let's call it, plastic and reconstructive microsurgery, head and neck and spine. So by targeting these areas, these are all associated with nerve repairs in some way. And this just gives us a broader spectrum. And I'll just add that, and I'll talk again about the Berkeley position, but the key to there is that these guys will use, particularly in plastic reconstructive, in the hand, breast, and lower extremities, they will use the dermal and amniotic type products. So as I mentioned before, we do have now have a couple of people in the United States, plus a BD person based in California. So all of this together, we are building up that commercialization effort as the company moves forward. Next slide. So the Berkeley ReNerve product range. Why did we take these products on? And I presented this previously at the Berkeley, but I'll just revisit this because I think it's important for people to understand that the potential of the combined product portfolios, the nerve products, as well as the dermal and amniotic, what this can do for us in terms of really driving our revenue going forward. So we found that, and this is really driven by our early interaction with surgeons, that surgeons that we are targeting on the NerveAlign products routinely use dermal and amniotic membrane products in or associated with some of the procedures where you see nerves damage. Trauma is a classic example of that. Injuries, everything from cutting your hand right through to industrial and auto accidents. But there are also cases where they dermal and amniotic membrane products are used where the nerve repair isn't. So these are done by the same surgeons that we're interacting with on a day-by-day basis. So in a way, this is a way for us to generate more revenue per customer and more revenue per procedure. So they may or may not use one of our nerve products, but they may have a need to use one of our dermal or amniotic products. So therefore, that obviously means that, this is an opportunity for us to grow revenue. This is all about converting us from an R&D company into a commercial entity going forward. And as I've mentioned before, these are the same salespeople, the same distributors that sell these products. In effect, we're just adding more to the kit bag of our sales reps. And so the cornerstone of the products and why we chose Berkeley is, and I'll talk a little bit about each of those products going forward, but it's around about protective healing and enabling reconstruction, which is a real core of what we're doing in terms of developing our nerve range. So it's complementary as well from a scientific/clinical perspective, and they're cleared in the United States, so they're ready to go. So I would just make the point on that you'll see in the coming weeks or months an update on our first sales on this product range. Next slide. So the amniotic range, just to highlight and just to go a little deeper on that, these are used in orthopedic, plastic and general surgery, chronic wound repair, wound closure. So if you think about if we're doing a nerve repair, we will be closing the wound. And so it's best to have these products available. Again, this is all about building out. If you think about where we were 12 months ago, we were walking in a market where we had one product range. By the end of this year, we'll have at least 4. And in that 4, we'll have this amnio range, which actually has 3 subgroups to it. The amniotic products act like a natural barrier, but they come as a reservoir of growth factors and cytokines that help kickstart that healing, all which is beneficial to the repair process, all of which are what we're about in ReNerve, about helping surgeons and patients get better outcome for patients. It's a proprietary process that's been developed with Berkeley, and we're working with them on some extensions of these products. Again, a supporting cell attachment and re-epithelialization, not dissimilar to what we see with our nerve cap at conduits. Highly sterile and room temperature. So again, functional and characteristic that are easy to use, which is again a bit of a mantra for us. Make it functional for the surgeon, make it easy for the hospital, make it cost effective, but also make it practical and positive in terms of the outcome for patients and surgeons. Next slide. The deep dermal layer, this is a new product. This is new to market. It's different from what's out there in terms of other dermal products. Again, it's used in orthopedic, plastic, general surgery, all the same surgeons we're talking about. The scaffolds allows for cell infiltration and organized healing, and keeps an element of those natural bioactive components in there. But unlike other dermal products, the deep layer products, this has the basement membrane removed. So this can, with the basement membrane in other products, that slows down cell penetration and tissue regeneration. So the novel factor here is that this allows for that to be a faster process. Again, that's all about helping the healing and quicker recovery. And better recovery. It's pre-hydrated, easy to use, sterile, and room temperature. So again, very much in line with what we do in terms of our thinking about both practical, cost-effective, functional, easily accessible, but also provide some true benefit for both patient and surgeon. Next slide, thank you. So this is just to reiterate that that this product is new. It has a high appeal for us in this regard, and it's unlike anything else out there in this dermal tissue space, simply because of the way that it's treated and where it's sourced from, and gives us a better natural dermal product with natural integrity preserved. Next slide, thank you. So going forward, the quarter has been productive. We've set a number of things in place. We've expanded our distribution network. We've seen sales continue to rise, but most importantly, we've put this program partnership in place with Berkeley, and this will give us 2 product ranges coming to market this half of the year. So we'll update the market when we get our first sales, and the products are approved. We're just finalizing some of the marketing. We will do a big formal launch of the product at ASH, the American Society for Surgery of the Hand conference in October. But the products are going out. We're trying to look to sell those sooner rather than later. The first of the conduit products is progressing very well, and we aim to get that to the market by the end of the year. So this therefore provides our existing sales teams in the United States and all of our distributors a 4 product range, and that's what differentiates us now from where we were even 6 months ago, that we now have a range of products that we can sell into the market. This then leads us working forward with our distributors for additional approvals. We can then go to a hospital and say, hey, we're not just selling you a nerve cuff / wrap. We have a wrap, a conduit, and we have these dermal and amniotic products. So therefore we can answer a number of applications or needs that you have in terms of tissue required products. And so for us moving forward, as far as an internal team, this will be working with those over the next 6+ months, and then rolling into 2026. Eric, Mark, and the team working with our distributors to really build that presence, hold their hands through distribution and new product approvals and through sales. And that's the focus for us in the second half of this year as we bring these new products to market. Next slide, thank you. So near-term milestones, the first half of the year was very productive in terms of partnerships, particularly in Thailand and approvals in Thailand, first sales in Hong Kong, also activity and partnership and approval in Bahrain, but partnerships across the Middle East, partnership in Mexico, partnership in India. So this is really leveraging what we've done already in the United States around our nerve cuff, and those partnerships are all around the nerve cuff, but we would look to roll our additional products in there. Second half of this year is really about rolling out this additional product portfolios and getting the initial sales of our dermal and amniotic tissue, getting our conduit to market, getting first sales of that. Then that leads us running into 2026 around having a full suite of products that we can do, as well as additional products coming in behind that. And then in the longer term, the company, as you know, will progress its nerve guide matrix into phase 3 or stage 3, regulatory approval, and initial sales in India. Again, it's all going to be around bringing product to market so that we become a more complex business in terms of its ability to sell multiple products. Next slide, please. So the investment highlights are just a summary of the business. We're in market. We have our nerve cuff in the market. There's clear need for the products that we're developing. The market is growing. It's a significant market, both from the nerve repair, but also the complementary dermal and amniotic products. This is not to say that we're moving away from the from nerve repair. This is just expanding ourselves out. We are making the same call points. And to put that in perspective, it's easier for us to get more out of a procedure. So if we're selling our nerve cuff, for example, our large size at 1800 US, but the surgeon in the same procedure uses 2 pieces of amniotic tissue at say 2800, instead of getting $1,800 per procedure, we look to get about $6,000 or $7,000 procedure. So it's all about lifting that revenue number. So the second half of this year will, as the key point there, is diversify the product portfolio, give us that ability with 4 product ranges in the market by year end. And that'll be a key for us launching both through the continued growth that we're seeing, but also accelerating that growth going forward. We've built out our distribution. We'll continue to explore options outside of the United States, but we've got our, we're certainly busy in the United States. Eric Mark have put on a number of people in the US in terms of new distributors over the particularly the last quarter, as you've seen in that presentation. And so now for us to bed down those working with those guys to make sure that the products get into the hospitals, get them approved, get the sales happening. And of course, board and management, we know this space. We have a track record in being able to bring products to market, commercialize them and sell them. So we have the team that's in place now. And so I think all of those factors are in place for us to really start looking to become more of that commercial business as opposed to the R&D business. The R&D will still be there. It's still a cornerstone of who we are. It's really, really important. But now by having expansion of that portfolio coming forward really gives us that opportunity to accelerate that sales revenue. So thank you. That's the next slide is just the end. So that's hopefully gives everybody an update. We'll give the market updates on where we're going in terms of our sales and marketing, as well as initial sales around the dermal, amniotic, and conduit products. We have a number of key conferences coming up for us, one in September, one in October. So all things going forward, the company's going to have a pretty busy rest of this year. And I know that Mark and Eric are doing extensive amounts of interaction with our distributors, particularly at the moment and going forward. So yeah, we're looking forward to this growth coming forward for us.
Great. Thanks for that, Julian. Just again, a reminder to everyone in the audience, if you have a question, please feel free to type it in using the option within Zoom, and we'll jump to those now. So Julian, the first question I have is, what is the expected FDA pathway for the conduit product?
Yeah, so the typical pathway is looking at it for various options. As I mentioned before, we were looking at a range of different products, everything that will allow small to slightly longer gaps. So that's the benefit that we have, is that the product is made from the nerve cuff material as a core. So we use our supercritical CO2 technology to produce the nerve cuff, our conduit, just like we do with the nerve cuff. So we can leverage that filing package into that FDA application. So the process will be for us to just leverage that in a way as an extension, and then we will continue to progress that as we look to use that as an extension of additional products. And what I mean by that is we can bring our conduits to market, and then we'll continue to build a body of evidence. But the process is really just leveraging off our existing filings and then building out from those, but not extensively. There's not an extensive requirement. It's complementary.
And just to touch on it there, but given a follow on from that question is, given it is based on the cuff, can the approval process be accelerated?
Yeah, I think that's the key point, is that it's there's a lot of information that the FDA has already. We're very interactive with them. There's no safety concerns. We also have the benefit that the wrap cuff has been used in quite a number of patients, hundreds of patients. So we have that reference point as well, to show both clinical as well as preclinical safety profiles. So we do benefit from that does give us an accelerated path forward.
Thank Thank you. Just looping a couple of questions together here. Can you speak to the differences between your product and the ReNerve product and a sales rep's reporting coming up against that product in the market?
Yeah, so I'm not inclined usually to speak about other products. I don't see anything special about the ReNerve product, regardless of the marketing. Our biggest competitor we see is Oxygen. I'll put the ReNerve product in the same basket as others, in the sense that they're just cuffs. I think the big difference between us and everybody else is that our product is absorbed within 6 months, and we have that data. The big importance of that is that if you think about a nerve repair, not dissimilar to using a cuff or a wrap, is like using a Band-Aid on a sore. After a couple of days, you like to take the Band-Aid off. Typically, within 4 to 6 months, you don't really need a cuff or conduit a wrap, sorry, cuff or a wrap in place around a nerve repair. The nerve has pretty much repaired itself and settled down, so you need it to be absorbed. So we know that we're the only ones that are absorbed within 6 months. There's people use language around that they're absorbed within X periods of time. I've seen everything from 6 to 12 to 24 months. But it's really, really important in that regard. Ours is semi-translucent, easy to use, pliable, and we get very strong feedback of the use of our product, its manageability, its functionality in theatre compared to other products. And so we think that there's a range of reasons why ours is the quality of the cuff is there, simply because of its utility or its function and when you use it, but also the fact that it's absorbed within that 6-month period. We want it to protect the nerve. We want it to prevent the scarring. We want it to prevent negative inflammatory responses, which is what we see. But we also don't want it there to stay around for long periods of time, because the longer it's going to be there, and the longer it's going to have the potential for issues. And so the benefit of our technology around supercritical CO2 is that the CO2 is a very benign and gentle way of producing these tissue products, that allows the natural infrastructure to be preserved in terms of elasticity and tissue integrity, but it's not a typical tissue processing where you're using heavy detergents and materials to produce them. And as a consequence of that, you get a very semi-translucent, pliable product. And if you look at our YouTube channel or our LinkedIn profile or Investor Hub or our website, you'll see some surgical procedures using the product. It's very simple to use. It's easy and malleable for the surgeon. It has the benefit that once in place, they can see if they've got it in the right position. But perhaps the key here is that it's absorbed within 6 months. And that's biologically naturally absorbed, so there's no detrimental aspects of it being in place. And so I think that's part of one of the key selling points for us.
Great, thank you. And more generally, you talked about your people on the ground in the US now. Can you just talk to any observations that they've relayed to you about the market?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one, and not to go back and harp on the Berkeley relationship, is really about having optionality for surgeons. The more products that we have, the better off we are. So by bringing additional products to market for us means that we can just give the options both to the hospitals, and I put in there as well the procurement groups, as well as the surgeons, the products, so that there's not a whole lot of call points. They don't have to take a call point for a nerve cuff, and then they don't have to take a separate call point for a nerve conduit. They don't have to take a separate nerve call point for an amniotic tissue or a dermal tissue. So having multiple products on the market is really, really important for us in terms of generating revenue out of specific centers, hospitals, and also moreover procedures. It allows you to, the more product you've got, the more likely hospitals are going to bring you on board.
Thank you. And another US related question someone has sent in is, can you speak on the Trump tariffs and how that impacts ReNerve?
Yeah, so overall, very minimal. Our new product range, the dermal and amniotic, are made in the United States, so no tariffs obviously there. Our nerve guide matrix will be made in the United States, so again, no tariffs there. So it really applies to our nerve cuff and our nerve conduit products. The tariffs, I believe, with Europe are at 15%. They were at 10. They are applied to our wholesale price. So at the moment, our gross profit margins up around about 95%, and this probably brings it down to about 94%. And so there's plenty of wriggle room and really doesn't have a financial impact on us. And moreover, I'm not sure how most people know how these tariffs work, but it's actually the importing agent and then the logistics/warehousing group that have to pay the tariffs. So technically, we don't really see that impact of that tariff until we're well into the hospital selling process for our product. And so the overall answer, or very short answer to that question, is it's pretty minimal and not really going to have a bearing on us in terms of our overall business.
The next question is, given the projected/hopeful increase in demand for your products, could you outline your current manufacturing capacity and any plans or contingencies in place to scale production as required?
Yeah, sure. Our current manufacturing would allow us to produce around about 20 times from our nerve conduit and our graft, probably 20 to 30 times our sales requirements, and that's without pushing our current manufacturer. We do have a second manufacturer up our sleeve in the United States if we wanted to for those two products. And then in terms of the nerve guide matrix, they can make a significant amount of product at any one time. So there's no real demand, no real issue there. They can service, even if we had 100% saturation across the $1.6 billion market, we would be able to service that. In terms of the amniotic and dermal product ranges, they have very good manufacturing and sourcing of raw material. So in terms of that, everything is in place from those products. Part of the process that we're working through at the moment is to build our own brands around those products, and you'll see some updates of those over the coming months. And as a consequence of that, we can take those brands and move some of that sideways, i.e. to alternatives. But at the moment, there's more than sufficient for us. So based on the current manufacturing capabilities, in terms of contingencies as well, we can certainly get into the significant tens of millions of dollars in revenue based on what we have in place at the moment.
Thank you. And the last question is, where are the amniotic and dermal materials sourced from? Where are the manufacturers based, and does ReNerve license the IP?
So it's yes through our partnership is the answer to the last part of that question. The company is based in California, hence the name Berkeley Biologics. So on the East Bay, for those that are familiar with San Francisco, and they source it through a number of suppliers in the United States. It's a pretty well-established industry in the US. And so in terms of that core supply, and they have a number of those core supply centers.
Great. Well, as mentioned, that's all the questions, Julian. I'll just throw it back to you if you wanted to provide a closing comment.
Yeah, no, just look, thank you for joining me today. The company is going very well. We're very excited now that we're bringing product range into market. It certainly helps us expand both our market penetration, but also our ability to grow revenue. The coming 6 months plus and work running into 2026 are really important for us. You'll see some updates see fair bit of news flow coming through in the second half of this year, particularly around initial sales in dermal and amniotic, as well as an update on the conduit program and the nerve graft. So all things are going forward. We're achieving what we want to achieve, and we are looking forward to accelerating our revenue from a business, as well as further development and progress around our products, both from the research and commercial development perspective.
Great. Thanks for that, Julian, and thanks to everyone for joining today. We'll look forward to bringing you more soon.
Thanks, everybody.